Hafide and welcome back. Carmen Victoria Chirlaki here on location at the Hyatt with the lovely writer Inara Verzemnieks. Very fancy last name. And welcome to Guam.
Thank you so much. Half a day.
Hafide. And tell me a little bit about what you're doing here. I know you have lots of activities planned. On Friday there is an evening with the author as well. Tell us what brings you here to the island.
I am here at the invitation of Humanities Guam to lead workshops for local creative writers, local journalists, local high school students, and then also to give a reading of my work. I am someone who tends to write a lot about place as a character in my writing, and so I'm coming to talk to folks about how they might think about approaching home as something really rich and realized and vivid.
Right. And tell me, you have your book right here. Can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write that book? I know it is a huge task to come up with such a lovely work. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, I was raised by my grandparents who were refugees from a country in Europe called Latvia at the end of the Second World War, and they ended up settling in the United States. And they raised me from when I was 2 until I was 8. And my grandparents at that time couldn't go back to Latvia, and so the only way that they could return was through stories. And they were always telling me stories about what they had left behind, making very vivid their family farms, their relatives, and so I carried those stories with me, and I actually carried them more as things that helped guide me through life as opposed to something I ever imagined writing about. I was a journalist after all. I was taught not to put myself in the story.
Okay.
And then eventually I reached a point in my life where I was making some big changes and wishing that I could call back to my grandmother. But at that point, unfortunately, she passed away. So I decided to return to the country she had come from, the first time I'd ever been there, and to go back to her lost village and try to find her family.
Wow.
Yeah, so the book recounts that story and finding her sister still alive in her 80s and trying to reconstruct what had happened both to her sister who remained behind in Latvia and what had happened to my grandmother when she fled the country.
Wow. That sounds like a beautiful story. Oh my gosh. So much emotion, I'm sure, that's also attached to this very personal journey of yours. Tell me more about writing. You are a journalist. You have a lot of experience in the writing field. What inspired you to kind of give back to the community here on island? And why do you think people should come and maybe talk to you and join one of those workshops?
One of the things that I feel really strongly about as a teacher and as a journalist is making sure that the stories that we tell don't come from a single voice, making sure that people who want to be able to share who they are and where they come from have the tools in order to do that. They already have the expertise. They already have the understanding. One of the things that I want to do while I'm here is to share what I've learned and to pass that on freely so that people can be able to tell stories from within their own communities and to be able to share that in a broader sense.
Definitely. Now you have a lot of workshops coming up that people can take advantage of. Where can they sign up?
They can sign up on the Humanities Guam website, go to events, and click on events, and in events they'll find a place where they can sign up.
Definitely. And tell me more. I know the evening with the author is something that I'm sure you're looking forward to after this very busy week on Friday, and it'll be happening here, is that correct?
Yes, it'll be happening here at the hotel. And one of the things I love about readings is, for me, I wrote the book. In Latvian culture, there's a real connection to language and language spoken out loud. And so when I wrote the book, I wrote it in such a way that even if you don't speak the language, the words themselves mimic the feeling of listening to Latvian. And so for me, every time I read, it's a way that I call back to my grandmother. So yeah, you'll have that opportunity to see me feeling close to home with every word I read, and my gratitude that everyone will be in the audience sharing that with me.
That's really exciting. Almost like the words are jumping out of the pages, so to speak. Anything else you'd like to share with us as we're wrapping up? I know that you made a very far trip
Yes, I
from
did.
your home.
Yes, I did.
What are you looking forward to doing here on Guam besides the workshops?
Well, I am trying every single moment I have to get down to the beach, to be close to the water. I came here from Iowa City, where 2 weeks ago the temperatures had been negative 40. On the day I left, there was an
That's
ice
true.
storm. I'm trying to figure out how I can wear my bathing suit under my work clothes so that if I have a minute, I can just jump in.
Go
But,
for
yeah.
it. I know. Well, welcome here to Guam.
Thank you.
And I know we look forward to all of your workshops. You do have a variety of workshops for children as well, for high school students, college level, and as well as journalists. Finally, I mean, what would you say to any aspiring writers out there about your experience and why they should pursue writing?
I think one of the things that's so important for people to think about when they're wanting to write a book is that they need to trust how they see the world, and they need to trust that where they came from has shaped them in a way that allows them to tell stories that no one else can, and to have faith in that and to believe in that and to give time to that.
Right.
Writing is long, hard, lonely work, but oftentimes you can find ways to connect with other people who can reassure you and who can help support you and who can say to you, yes, you have the words that no one else has. And so things like this workshop, but also looking for other opportunities on the island to support one another in telling your stories.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Inara. If you want to meet her, don't forget, you can come to the evening with the author on Friday.